Houston headlines this season. The Rockets became the first team in NBA history to attempt more three-pointers than twos, and in total, Houston hit more triples in a season than any team ever. The Rockets' dominance was felt throughout the season with 3 separate win streaks of at least 10 games. It all added up to a record-setting season, 65 wins, the most in franchise history, resulting in the Rockets being the #1 seed for the first time ever. 15-man roster has nearly 600 games of playoff experience. Is it all enough? We'll find out with this squad. They shoot a lot of threes, but this isn't your typical Rockets squad. Houston finished 14th in the league in pace. Maybe, Smitty, even more shocking for a Mike D'Antoni team, the Rockets had more isolation possessions than any other team in basketball. We bring back in Steve Smith, Jared Greenberg, Western Conference Preview Show. It's weird to talk about the Rockets this way.
Yeah, it is, but I'm okay if you have guys who isolate, who are willing passers. And you have 2 guys in James Harden. Obviously, he scores a lot, but he will pass it. But they were lacking another guy that can make plays, and they have Chris Paul now. So when you have 2 guys that can go, it's okay in isolation because they're swinging it. Obviously, you see here both those guys, but the floor is space, and everybody understands. Yes, he's dancing. He knocks down this jumper because that's how good Harden is. But when it comes down right now is this guy right here is Chris Paul. You have another guy who is a flat-out playmaker, and you can see Capella being able to be the recipient from both those guys. And then last but not least, this is where they struggle. They would take the first three-point shot, whether it's contested. This basketball is hopping from side to side. All 5 guys touched it. They are trusting, and that was Chris Paul, understanding he easily could have took that shot, but he kicked it over to Trevor Ariza. They have a Chris Paul and a James Harden, 2 guys making great decisions now.
What I'm curious about is how good this team has played defensively throughout the year. P.J. Tucker, Luc Mbah a Moute, who may miss the entire first round, but once he comes back, Trevor Ariza, other guys that are known for their defense. Will Mike D'Antoni stick with those guys on the court in pressure situations where he's thinking, I got to score?
Well, I think for Mike D'Antoni, he's going to have to stick with Chris Paul, and he's a great two-way player. So that's one guy he doesn't have to worry about because he will be playing. Then you have Trevor Ariza, P.J. Tucker, and like you say, Luc Mbah a Moute. Those guys are interchangeable. So I think he'll always have one of those guys on the floor versus last year without Trevor Ariza, that one wing defender, they had no one else. So he'll always have some guys that can defend, but they're two-way guys now. They can defend and score.
All right, well, the Houston Rockets take on the 8th seed, the Minnesota Timberwolves, who needed the final night of the regular season to get in. The Timberwolves have ended a 13-year playoff drought, but now can they end a streak of 14 straight years without a playoff series win? How about that, Karl Anthony Towns?
This being my 3rd year, you just could feel that the fans, the atmosphere around here, the fans wanted a playoff chance, and I'm glad we gave it to them tonight. I remember back when I got drafted, I made a promise to Flip that I would do everything in my power to bring, this town, this state, this organization, another playoff, end the playoff drought, and I'm very fortunate and blessed with the teammates I have here and a great organization here that I'm able to do that.
Well, the only other time that the Rockets have faced the Timberwolves in the playoffs, 1997, Houston eliminated Sam Mitchell's squad in 5.
Absolutely. Rockets were a good team, and they are a great team now.
Well, Minnesota pretty darn good this year. We had more expectations of them, higher expectations than being the 8th seed, but at least they're in, right?
Exactly.
What can Karl Anthony Towns do in the playoffs, his first go-round in the postseason?
Well, you're talking about a guy, when you talk about Anthony Davis, how complete a player he is, Karl Anthony Towns is right there behind him. He has all the moves. He can post you up. Look at Karl right here. He gets good position right here on Plumlee, but watch these moves. He's taking his time, crab dribbling him down to his spot, up and on the fake. Now, I think I'm going to shoot the turnaround jump on you. And then this is Karl Anthony Towns. This is lethal. He pump fakes from the 3 because he can make threes. You got to respect it. Nah, I think I'm going to put it on the floor. Look at this finish right here. 2 dribbles and get all the way to the basket. And then he sets the screen right here, a good screen for Jimmy Butler. And watch as he opens up. And watch the finesse in which he scores right there. Other than Anthony Davis, how many other big men that can play like he can? He can shoot the 3. He can put it on the floor. He can pass it, and then he can post up. So when you look at Karl Anthony Towns, Minnesota would be doing themselves a disservice if they don't run that offense through him because, quite frankly, I don't think Clint Capella can guard him, and it may force Houston into some traps and rotations.
Well, you certainly know that being his former head coach. And while you didn't have Jimmy Butler in Minnesota when you were the coach of the Timberwolves, you did have Andrew Wiggins. And we know Butler's got that experience of being in the playoffs. He's been it as a secondary player and also as the team's leader. But how do you mesh the two and get Wiggins at his optimal potential here in the playoffs, which has kind of been a roller coaster all throughout the season?
Well, throughout the season, Jimmy Butler, he's been pushing Karl and Andrew Wiggins to be better defenders. But I would say this to Jimmy Butler right now. You need to grab Andrew Wiggins and pull him into the fold because, look, as good as this Timberwolves team potentially can be, you're not going to have a chance of beating the Houston Rockets unless you get a stellar performance game after game from Andrew Wiggins. And Jimmy Butler, who's played for Tom Thibodeau, he knows the system, he understands what's expected, and he knows they're going to have to play the best defense they've ever played if they're going to have a chance of beating Houston. And right now, when you watch Andrew Wiggins, he seems like he's not in the fold right now. So I'm going to put the onus on Jimmy Butler. You need to go to Andrew Wiggins, pull him in and say, look, we're going to get you your touches. We're going to get you your shots. We're going to put the ball in your hand. But also defensively, you're going to have to guard James Harden like we all are, and we're going to need your maximum effort. But they got to pull Andrew Wiggins in because without Wiggins and the things that he brings to the table, the scoring, the passing, the shooting, and potential of the defense, they have no shot at beating Houston Rockets.
Well, they did it in overtime against Denver the other night. They've reached the playoffs. The drought is over in Minnesota. We'll see what type of damage they can do in the first round against the record-setting Rockets.